Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Long time no see. I am so sorry that I haven't been posting lately. I just honestly started my first semester of law school and I wanted zero distractions, so I took a break from social media, even like TikTok. I only went on it occasionally and I just started posting back during my winter break, but that was now coming to an end. I start classes back on Monday, so I survived my first semester of law school and I passed, so now I'm going to start my second semester of law school. So that is that. I do want to give you all a little bit of an update on how things have been going and how my first semester went. So starting off by saying that the first semester was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was hard sometimes, it was full of highs, it was full of lows, but I've made incredible friends, I've made incredible connections, and honestly, I could say for the most part, it was really fun. Obviously, like the trauma of going through it and studying for finals was the worst part, but I think that it all just kind of adds to the experience, and it's something that you're gonna have to go through because obviously getting into the workforce and becoming an attorney is probably a lot more stressful than taking finals, you know? So I think they're trying to prepare you for the best. Another update is that my friends and I actually started a Latino student organization on campus. We were really lacking one. We were kind of just mixed in with the Black and Asian students, which was fine, but I think I just wanted a more centralized place where all of us can, you know, be together, because, you know, even though we're all people of color, we all don't have like the same journeys or the same experiences or the same struggles. And for me, it's really important for the next like year of law students, the next generation that come through, know that on our campus we actually have a Latino population and that we focus on that, because for me that's really important. I love to feel like I'm home and I'm validated somewhere. So yeah, my friends and I started an organization. It's called Latine at Pitt. I'm actually the president. We did a holiday food drive last semester and we were able to collect 3 big boxes of food for immigrant families in Pittsburgh. We're gonna have our first ever attorney speaker panel, and the attorneys are going to be Latin attorneys and most of them speak Spanish. So I'm just so excited for all of us to get some insights on how, you know, other people before us were able to become successful and the like sectors that they work in. I think a lot of times as like Latin students that speak Spanish, we are told to become immigration attorneys, and there is nothing wrong with that at all. I've literally worked in immigration my whole professional career, so I know about it, but it is really hard to do that work, especially right now. So I think it's really important for us to see the different pathways that there is and the different sectors that we can work in and leverage our, obviously our language, but also our culture in how we navigate the legal system. So I'm so excited for that, and I think those are all the updates that I have. I think my plan first is to go through my personal statement. I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna post it here so you all can see it. And then at the end, I'm just going to give you all a few tips or insights into everything. I probably shouldn't have this background on. I'll turn it off. Yeah, so without further ado, here is my personal statement. As an 8-year-old, waking up at 5 in the morning was no easy task, but it was a challenge I came to cherish. Every weekend and summer morning, I would rise to help make flour tortillas from scratch for my family's small business. Through this routine, I learned that hard work, dedication, and perseverance were the foundation of my family's success. I saw these values as my father transitioned from an undocumented agriculture worker to a U.S. citizen business owner. His journey was a powerful example of resilience and became the blueprint for how I faced every challenge that came my way. In my junior year of high school, resilience decided it was time for a test. Walking into the 3rd period, I could feel eyes following me. A substitute teacher said out loud, "Did you hear about all the Mexicans who were arrested?" Her words hit me with shame. She was talking about my father. The emotional hardship and negative stigma that followed were exhausting. Everyone knew of my family's legal issues. Despite this challenge, I held my head high and persevered. I became the first in my family to graduate from high school. I became determined to redefine success through education, a path that had long been out of reach for generations before me. Growing up in a small town with parents who never had the opportunity to finish high school, attending college was a transformative experience. Learning about social justice and systemic barriers gave me new insights into my father's legal scuffle. With this new realization, I became less angry at him, understanding that his situation was part of a larger systemic issue. After reading about inequalities in my courses, I had real-life examples as tests in my internships. The most prominent is the inaccessibility of the legal system, particularly for indigent individuals with intersecting identities. As a bilingual and bicultural advocate, my primary duty was to bridge language gaps between English-speaking attorneys and Latino clients. The relief I witnessed on clients' face when I spoke Spanish unveiled the impact of my presence in the legal field. I was part of a solution in addressing issues of equity and representation. With my newfound love for the legal profession, I immersed myself in the work. It wasn't long until I encountered unethical practices and the mistreatment of vulnerable clients. Watching these patterns unfold, I reflected on my role and whether my presence unintentionally contributed to harm. Anger followed when I realized that impacted clients were people from my community. Despite many attempts to address the issues in my cracking voice, I resigned. I promised to advocate fiercely for vulnerable clients and hold accountable those who neglect their cases. These experiences reinforced my unwavering commitment to integrity and excellence in every aspect of my work. Law school is the next natural step in my journey. My insights, values, and perspectives will enrich classroom discussions, bring a diverse voice to represent a demographic that often lacks a seat at the table. To put my passion into action, I need a legal education, and Blank Law School aligns perfectly with my goal of providing innovative, ethical, and competent legal representation, all within public interest law. I'm eager to collaborate with like-minded classmates and learn from professors dedicated to elevating justice. My passion for public interest draws me to Blank Law School. I'm eager to be in a place where we all have the same vision for changing our society to be more equitable. Becoming a first-generation Latina attorney is not just a personal achievement, but a step towards reshaping the legal system to make it more accessible and equitable. My journey is rooted in a deep commitment to service, integrity, and ethics. I will use my voice to empower marginalized communities until they find their own. I am determined to make a lasting impact on the legal profession for myself, my community, and those I will serve. Okay, so I'm gonna try to go a little bit like paragraph per paragraph. So the first thing I would say is make sure that your personal statement is not scattered. And I think this is really hard sometimes because, you know, sometimes we go through so much, we have so much experience, we have so much lived circumstances, but it's really important that you highlight the ones that really shape your why law school, and also just don't like vomit it in there. There has to be a reason why you're saying what you're saying. And keep in mind, you are competing for a space in a law school, especially when applications are up like 45%. I think every single sentence that you write has to be one that is moving and useful. Don't just add a sentence for the sake of it, but like you have to be selling yourself in every single word that you can, because you're going to be competing against people that are writing amazing essays. So yours has to be also as amazing. I hope that made sense. Something I will really advocate for is have people read your essay. I would say 3 to 5 people is the best, and if you could ask people from different walks of life, but it's super important that you ask someone that is in a higher position than you. If they're an attorney, if they are a judge, they're just someone with a degree or higher education. I think that's really important because these are the type of people that are going to be reading your personal statements. And something else that I got, like a piece of advice that I got, is make sure that your story is understandable to an outside person. Let me say more. So I had like 7 different versions of my personal statement, and my boss at the time, she asked a judge to read my personal statement, and his feedback was, I have no idea what she's talking about. So I think with that, what I'm trying to say is it's your story that you're writing about, so it obviously makes sense to you because you lived it, you experienced it, but sometimes that does not translate well onto paper. So you have to make sure that the person that is reading your essay can follow. They cannot go in your mind and know what you're talking about. Like, you have to tell them. So make sure your story is as cohesive as possible, and in a way there's like a start, middle, ending. I think some advice that you get sometimes online is like, there has to be a hook to your story and there has to be something really wow about it so it captures the reader in the first second. I personally struggle with this so much, and I think sometimes it's okay if you don't have a hook, and I think sometimes it's okay if your story is in chronological order, because if that's the way you fell in love with the legal profession and that's how you want to tell your story of why law, then you should just stick with it. I know some people get like super crafty with it, or they're just like have a really good delivery, but I don't think you have to do the most extra thing. If your story is just like linear, that's okay, because that's how mine was, right? Like, graduated high school, went to college, learned about the legal profession in college, did some work, and now I want to go to law school. Like, that is very like the basic way that someone would want to go to law school. So that's just a little bit of my personal tips. Something else that I want to just say out here out loud is I did use AI when I wrote my personal statement, but obviously everything that I wrote is my story. It happened to me. I just used AI for grammar, for spelling, and really just to check that I wasn't being too repetitive, that everything made sense, that this was like a high level written paper, and that everything I wanted to convey was coming across. I really gave AI really clear guidelines, and I kept saying keep my same tone, keep my same delivery. Like, I didn't want to make it sound like it was a robot writing it, right? So I think it's really important that you give AI guidelines. Now, there's going to be some people that are going to be super judgmental when you tell them that you used AI. This happened to me because I posted my personal statement on TikTok, and I used a version of it that like still had M dashes, and people were like coming for me on TikTok. And listen, there's people that literally pay other people to help them throughout the whole application process. How is that any different from using AI? Like, in my opinion, it's not. This is just more accessible because you don't have to pay for it, right? Like, you pay the internet bill, but you don't have to pay for AI. So I think if you use it in a smart way and you are meticulous when you use it, it could work in your advantage. And I will say, like, I'm not stupid. In like my actual real versions that I submitted to law schools, I deleted the M dashes. I deleted everything that made it look like it was AI written. And I just really made it sound like a person, because at the end of the day, I am a person and I did write this. On the same topic about being meticulous, make sure that when you write, I want to go to blank law school because XYZ, that you are super meticulous and changing out all the law school names, especially if you're using the same personal statement for different schools. For example, not in this version that I shared with you all, but in some versions I would talk about like the law school clinics. Sometimes it was called Human Rights Clinic, or sometimes it was called Immigrant Rights Clinic. So they all had different names. So you make sure you do your research and you're very meticulous in changing the name whenever you address it to a certain law school. Something else that I think I did pretty well is I feel like I slipped in little like facts about myself and my life and my identity without making it the whole story. So for example, I kind of just slipped in that my dad was an immigrant. I slipped in that my parents never went to high school. I slipped in that I was a Latina. I slipped in just other things, right? I think that it's really important that you do this in subtle ways, because I could make a whole personal statement on my dad being an immigrant, and I could make a whole personal statement on my parents not being high school graduates, but that's not what I did. I wrote that to say how it shaped me in a way, or how it shaped my life, but I didn't like lead with that, in my opinion. So I think if there's ways where you can add a little bit of like depth to yourself but without making it the whole essay, it's gonna be really awesome, because now they know little bits about me that they otherwise wouldn't know, right? So I think that is also really important if you're able to do that in a strategic way. Another piece of advice is that you are going to have about 7 to 8 or even more drafts of your personal statement. But if there's a story you are constantly coming back to, I think that's a good indicator that that's where you should land. Kind of like trusting your gut, right? So you're gonna have different versions. It's okay to start over and over and over and tweak it, but there has to be a time where you have to stop, because you can go on and on with editing and trying to make it perfect, but you just have to also be okay with the fact that it cannot be perfect. You know what I mean? Like, even reading my personal statement now, I see things that I could change, or there's like some repetitiveness, but I think that like in drafting it so much, you can drive yourself insane. So there has to be a point where you say, okay, this is good enough, like, and I have to be okay with this. And on that same topic, let's say that you kind of finish your personal statement and you like the version that you have and you apply to a law school, and then you get back and it's a rejection or a waitlist. Your first instinct is going to be, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Something in my application is wrong. I need to go back and redo my whole personal statement. I strongly do not think that you should do that. I think that you should trust yourself and the work that you put in, and just know that there is going to be a school that resonates with your story, or that loves your story, loves who you are and how you're selling yourself. It's just maybe that school wasn't the school for you. So keep this in mind as you move forward with applying to law school and writing your personal statement. And I think also personal statements really shine when you show growth and reflection. So if you can, I would say you should add that. And I think that is all I really have for today's video. If you have any questions or any comments, leave them below. If you would like me to look over your personal statement, I'll be more than happy to. Just keep in mind that I'm about to start my second semester of law school, and I do get busy, so it takes me sometimes a little bit to go through it, but I'm happy to talk to anybody. I usually hop on like phone calls and we just talk about things. I'm happy to brainstorm with you. I'm happy to help in any way that I can, but just keep in mind that I am busy, so just be patient with me and show me some grace. But thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.